Welcome to Muddy's Whitetail 101. We're finally into the deer season. In most parts of the country, October 1st signals opening day of the bow season. And here in Iowa, where I'm at, it is an open season for whitetail deer, and I'm excited about it. I'm not going to be able to take you on any hunts this week on the Whitetail 101 because we produced this before the season actually opened, which was Saturday. So I'll have to tell you about it next week, how things are going in the field. But I am going to take you through phase 3 of the patterning process. We've walked through phase 1 and phase 2 in previous episodes, and now I'm going to get into phase 3. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about what the deer are feeding on. The deer are starting to come off the beans. And I talked about that last week, why this transition occurs. We're starting to see plenty of brown beans. We're even starting to see some farmers in the field combining beans now. So the beans are not necessarily going to be a heavy draw for you. Anything green is still going to be good, like we talked about last week. But now we're going to start to see a little bit more of a shift toward the corn. Little by little, they're going to shift back to the beans. So maybe within a couple of weeks, if you've got some beans that are brown and dried down, the deer are going to be back in there feeding a little bit more heavily than what they are right now. So keep your eyes out for those two things. Of course, the acorns are still going to be, one of the number 1 spots to find the deer right now. So those are the 3 things I'd be looking for. Same 3 as last week. I'll probably talk about the same ones again next week, but we're going to see them in the corn, the dried down beans, and the acorns. So let's talk about trail camera patterning phase 3. And this is one area that really your camera's capabilities are going to factor into how you go about doing this. And the Muddy ProCam 12 has a feature called the time-lapse mode. And this is one feature that is, I think, really important to the whitetail deer hunter, probably overlooked a lot, but it allows you to be unintrusive, to get away from putting your camera on any kind of bait, but to still gain a lot of information about what the deer are doing in the areas where you put the cameras. Basically what this does is allow you to get a picture every period of time. I've set mine for 30 seconds. So I'm getting a photo every 30 seconds, and I set mine for the last hour and a half of daylight. So from 6 o'clock in the evening until 7:30 in the evening, I'm getting a picture every 30 seconds, whatever direction that camera is pointing. And I want to know what deer are coming out into my food plots during daylight hours. I'm less concerned now about what's happening at night. I feel like, casting the wide net, finding out where these shooter bucks are at, has taken care of that for me. I'm not, as concerned now with maybe where the deer are living. I think I've kind of got a handle on that. Now it's more about which ones are killable and when are they killable. So the time-lapse mode on the Muddy ProCam 12 does reveal that information for me. Now I've got a picture. I can go back and I can skim through all of those. You might think it's useless information to see those 75 pictures of does, but if you look at that over the period of a few days, you start to get an idea of what time of the day they're coming in and where they're coming from. Even if you're not hunting does, you need to know how to avoid them, because you don't want to be out there and have a deer get downwind of you and blow at you and clear the field out and basically alert all the rest of the deer that there's some danger there. You want to make sure that none of the deer coming into that feeding area are aware that there's a hunter there. Okay, so you're going to beat all the deer all the time. So you got to know what they're all doing. So anyway, that's kind of my big tip for this week, is understanding how to utilize this time-lapse mode for the trail camera patterning, step number 3. Now I want to talk about tree stands and the different tree stand designs that we have available to us. And Muddy really focuses on lock-on tree stands. And that fits perfectly with the way that we hunt here at Midwest Whitetail and personally the way that I hunt. I've hunted out of climbing stands over the years in some of the areas where they make sense, but they will not adapt well to most of the Midwest. And if you look at some of the trees that I hunt in, my mode of operation is typically to climb until I get into the either first or second major forks of branches coming off the main trunk of the tree. I want to have branches coming in around me when I'm up in the tree, because that's what breaks up my profile, allows me to stay hidden from the deer. Because there's 2 of us a lot of times, myself and the cameraman, we need even more of these types of angles and distractions to break up our outline. So we don't want to be in trees that don't have any branches. You're not going to go up a tree with a bunch of big branches with a climber. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare. So that's one mark against climbers in this part of the world. The other one is the fact that I feel like they're noisy. Once I get a lock on in place, got my steps in, everything's in place, I show up in the morning, I can sneak right in there without making a sound. If I've got to climb up the tree with my climbing tree stand every morning when I get there, I always feel like there's deer that are within 100 yards or possibly a little bit more that are going to hear that disturbance if it's a still morning. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to have my tree stand selection limited by anything. I want to be able to hunt in any tree that makes sense, and I don't want to make any noise coming and going. So for me, the climbing stands are out, and I've had that question asked a number of times, why don't you use climbers? That's just the answer to that question. And like I said, Muddy makes some of the best lock-on stands that are available anywhere. That's why we feel like it's a perfect partnership for us. That's it for this week. I've covered patterning, I've covered tree stand selection, and next week I'll bring you a little bit of action from the field. I know I'm not supposed to do that on Muddy's Whitetail 101. I'm supposed to save that for our own shows at Midwest Whitetail, but I'll throw a few bones to you and let you know what the guys are seeing. And it's just exciting now. The season has started. All the adrenaline is starting to come full circle where it's ready to we're ready to go. So I appreciate you joining me this week. We'll see you right back here again next week for the next episode of Muddy's Whitetail 101.